A single beam of sunlight pierces an ancient stone doorway, striking an altar that has waited a full year for this moment. This was no accident, but a masterpiece of what we now call the architecture of time. Across the globe, from the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Central America, our ancestors engineered their temples as cosmic clocks, building calendars directly into stone. They encoded celestial knowledge with such precision that these structures still mark solstices and track planets to this day. Why would ancient cultures go to such extraordinary lengths to capture the movements of the sun, moon, and stars in their most sacred buildings? And what hidden wisdom did they understand about our place in the cosmos that we have since forgotten? By the end of our journey, you will see these ancient temples not as ruins, but as sophisticated observatories that reveal a lost science connecting heaven and earth. How does it change your view of history to know that our ancestors could measure the cosmos itself with nothing but stone and shadow? These builders saw the sky not as a distant canvas of random lights, but as a great turning mechanism of divine order. For them, the sacred and the scientific were one and the same, a single language written in the movements of the sun and stars. Their temples were not just places of ceremony, they were bridges, meticulously constructed to connect the human world with the cosmic one. They understood that the rhythm of time itself was woven into the universe, a pattern that governed everything from the planting of crops to the timing of sacred rituals. The annual flooding of a river, the arrival of spring, the appearance of a specific star cluster at dusk, these were not just events, they were the heartbeat of their existence, predictable and powerful. This deep observation revealed a stunning truth, that the heavens operated with a mathematical precision that could be measured, anticipated, and, most importantly, built for. So they began to engineer permanent stone witnesses by aligning a temple's main doorway to the rising sun on the summer solstice, or designing a narrow window to capture the light of Venus on a specific night. They transformed inert rock into a dynamic clock. This was humanity's first great attempt to create order from cosmic chaos, to give a solid, tangible form to the invisible patterns that ruled their lives. The very orientation of these structures, often set to the cardinal points with astonishing accuracy, was a declaration that they understood their place within a larger, orderly system. This foundational principle, this marriage of earth and sky, is why these alignments were so painstakingly planned, built, and preserved for centuries. They were building a legacy in stone, a promise that the cosmic order would never be forgotten. These structures were not merely symbolic, they were functional calendars carved from the living rock. Long before paper or digital timekeeping, civilizations engineered their sacred sites to track celestial time with breathtaking accuracy. In the heart of the Yucatan jungle, the Maya constructed the observatory known as El Caracol. Its unique spiral tower is punctuated by narrow, strategically placed windows. These were not just for ventilation or view, they were precise astronomical sighting devices. One key alignment targeted the planet Venus. The Maya meticulously tracked its complex 584-day cycle, a rhythm deeply interwoven with their warfare and divinity. When Venus appeared as the morning star, its light, channeled through a specific window, would signal a time of great ceremonial importance, linking the actions of kings directly to the cosmos. Far across the Atlantic, an even older timepiece waits in the rolling hills of Ireland. Newgrange is a passage tomb older than the pyramids of Giza. Above its entrance, a mysterious opening called a roof box was engineered with incredible foresight. For just a few days around the winter solstice, as the sun reaches its lowest point in the sky, A single beam of light pierces this roof box. It travels down a long, dark passageway to flood the inner chamber with golden light for exactly 17 minutes. This event marks the sun's rebirth, a promise of returning life sealed in stone for over 5,000 years. Meanwhile, along the Nile, the architects of Karnak Temple achieved a similar feat with shadows. They oriented the massive complex so that during the equinoxes, when day and night are of equal length, the sun would rise in perfect alignment with the main axis. Specific columns were positioned to cast shadows that would fall upon altars or statues at the exact moment the sun crossed the celestial equator. This created a solar marker that divided the year with architectural precision. These stone calendars did far more than track days. They wove human rituals into the very fabric of the cosmos. A ceremony held at the precise moment of a solstice sunrise was infinitely more powerful, a direct collaboration with the universe. The sophistication of these architectural timepieces is staggering, revealing an advanced, hands-on understanding of astronomy that we are only now beginning to fully measure and appreciate. This mastery of solar alignment represents one of the most visually stunning applications of the architecture of time. Deep within the rock of Abu Simbel, the architects of Ramses II achieved a breathtaking feat of solar engineering. They designed the Great Temple so that twice each year, the dawn sun would fire a beam of light over 200 feet into the mountain's heart. This ray did not fall randomly. It was choreographed to illuminate the statues of 3 gods seated in the sacred inner sanctuary. Yet, with profound symbolic intention, the statue of Ptah, the god associated with darkness, was always left in shadow. This was not a simple alignment. It required an intimate and precise understanding of solar geometry, calculated so the sun would perform this specific ritual for millennia. On the other side of the world, the immense temple complex of Angkor Wat in Cambodia reveals a similar cosmic ambition. Its entire design is a terrestrial map of the Hindu universe, and its western gate is a precise solar site. On the morning of the spring equinox, observers are treated to a celestial spectacle as the sun rises directly over the temple's central tower. This alignment was a powerful, visual metaphor, demonstrating that the cosmic order was perfectly mirrored in the earthly realm, with the king and his temple at its very center. Even the classical Greeks integrated this principle into their most celebrated architecture. The Parthenon, crowning the Acropolis in Athens, was oriented so that on the day of the Panathenaic festival, the first light of the rising sun would strike the colossal gold and ivory statue of the goddess Athena within. This transformed the architectural experience into a timed event, where divine favor was made manifest by a beam of light. In every case, these were more than just buildings. They were sophisticated instruments designed to capture a moment. They used light as both a practical calendar and a profound spiritual metaphor, a bridge that visually demonstrated the unbreakable bond between the human world and the rhythms of the cosmos. While the sun provided a steady, predictable rhythm, the moon offered a more mysterious and elusive clock. Its silvery light changed shape night after night, vanishing completely before being reborn, a cycle of constant transformation that ancient architects sought to capture in stone. To track the moon's complex dance required an even deeper level of astronomical understanding, one that could predict events over decades, not just days. On the windswept Salisbury Plain, the Great Stone Circle of Stonehenge holds alignments that speak to this lunar obsession. Beyond the famous solstice sunrise, its outer station stones and specific arches frame the horizon at the moon's most extreme rising and setting points. These events, known as lunar standstills, occur only once every 18.6 years. By marking this slow, grand cycle in permanent stone, the builders created a long-term prediction machine. This knowledge was power, allowing priests to anticipate the most dramatic celestial event of all, a lunar eclipse when the Earth's shadow would slowly consume the moon. Such an event was often seen as a moment of cosmic imbalance, a spiritual conflict made visible in the sky, and the ability to foresee it would have been awe-inspiring. Far across the ocean, the Maya at Kapon constructed a temple dedicated entirely to the moon. Its intricate carvings and hieroglyphs are not mere decoration, they are a celestial record. They document the lunar cycle with precision, tying the moon's phases to the timing of royal ceremonies and the complex calendar they shared with the planet Venus. Their famous Venus tables, some of the most advanced astronomical records from the ancient world, even accounted for the possibility of lunar eclipses occurring during key planetary alignments. This reveals a stunning grasp of how the cycles of different celestial bodies were interconnected. In India, this synthesis of solar and lunar time was built directly into sacred architecture. Certain Hindu temples feature precisely carved windows or ornately sculpted pillars that act as lunar sightlines. On the night of a full moon in a specific month, moonlight would stream through an opening to illuminate a particular deity. In other temples, the height of a pillar's shadow under the moon's light would indicate the most auspicious day for a major ritual. This integration created a dual calendar in stone, where the sun marked the broad seasons of the year and the moon dictated the precise, sacred moments within them. This architectural pursuit shows us that ancient astronomers saw the cosmos as a single, interconnected mechanism. They understood that the sun and moon were partners in a grand celestial dance, and by building temples that tracked both, they created a permanent testament to that relationship, written not on paper, but in light, shadow, and stone. The stars offered a different kind of permanence, a fixed tapestry against which the sun and moon performed their endless cycles. To capture these distant points of light, ancient builders created architecture that served as a permanent map of the heavens. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as perhaps the ultimate example of this celestial ambition. Its base is aligned to the cardinal directions with an accuracy of less than 1/15 of a degree, an engineering marvel that oriented the entire structure to true north. But the alignment goes far deeper. Within the pyramid, narrow shafts extend from the king's chamber, not for ventilation as once thought, but as precise sightlines to the stars. One shaft pointed directly toward Thuban, the pole star of that distant era, while another targeted the three stars of Orion's belt. This was not random stargazing. In Egyptian belief, Orion was associated with Osiris, the god of rebirth and the afterlife. By aligning the pharaoh's final resting place with this constellation, the pyramid's architects built a celestial pathway, ensuring the king's soul could ascend directly to join the eternal gods. This was astronomy as theology, written in stone and starlight. Far to the west, in the ancient city of Teotihuacan, another grand avenue mirrors the sky. The Street of the Dead, the city's monumental central axis, is aligned not with a planet or the sun, but with the Pleiades star cluster. For the cultures of Mesoamerica, the heliacal rising of the Pleiades, its first appearance in the dawn sky after a period of invisibility, was a critical event. It signaled the beginning of the rainy season and the time to plant maize, the foundation of life itself. By building their entire ceremonial center to reflect this celestial event, the people of Teotihuacan grounded their survival, their very calendar, in the immutable stars. The city itself became a terrestrial echo of the cosmos, a constant reminder that human life was governed by the cycles unfolding overhead. Even older than these grand cities are the silent stone circles of Nabta Playa in the Egyptian desert. Dating back 7,000 years, this site reveals a prehistoric people who are already master astronomers. they arranged large stones to form lines and circles, with key alignments targeting the brightest star in our night sky, Sirius. In ancient Egypt, the heliacal rising of Sirius, known as Sothis, was the herald of the Nile's annual flood, the event that replenished the land and guaranteed a bountiful harvest. The builders of Nabta Playa, perhaps the ancestors of the great Egyptian civilization, were already using stone to mark this life-giving event, creating a calendar in the desert sans a full 2 millennia before the first pyramid was ever conceived. What emerges from these examples is a profound pattern. These temples and monuments were not just aligned with stars, they were three-dimensional star charts. They transformed abstract celestial knowledge into a physical, unshakable form. In an age without written records, or in times when such knowledge could be lost, the architecture itself preserved the most critical information a culture possessed. The precise angle of a pyramid shaft, the orientation of a grand avenue, the alignment of desert megaliths, these were all ways of encoding the clockwork of the universe into the landscape. They ensured that the connection between earth and sky, between the rhythm of human life and the grand motions of the cosmos, would never be forgotten. How many other ancient sites hold similar stellar secrets, waiting for the right moment in the great year to reveal their purpose once more? But the planets presented a unique challenge, moving as wandering stars against the fixed backdrop of the heavens. To track their complex, looping paths required architectural features of incredible precision. The Maya, master astronomers of the Americas, constructed observing platforms like the one at Uxmal with sightlines aimed precisely at the horizon. These were not for the sun or moon, but for the planet Venus. They charted its extreme rising and setting points, the farthest north and south it would ever appear in the sky. This precise data was the foundation for their detailed Venus tables, complex calendrical records that dictated the timing of warfare and the legitimacy of kings, weaving the planet's erratic dance directly into the fate of their civilization. Across the world, the towering ziggurats of Mesopotamia served a similar purpose. These massive stepped pyramids rose high above the flat plains, offering priests an unobstructed view of the celestial dome. From these elevated platforms, they meticulously tracked the movements of planets like Jupiter and Mars, recording their positions on clay tablets. These ancient logs, some of the oldest astronomical documents in existence, reveal a sophisticated understanding of planetary cycles that would later form the very bedrock of Western astronomy. In China, the ancient observatory at Gecheng took a more measured approach. Its long, flat platform was equipped with a permanent gnomon tower and a series of measuring stones laid out along a north-south line. While primarily for solar observation, this system was also used to track the slower, more subtle shifts in planetary positions against the fixed stars. This ability to distinguish the wandering planets from the static stars was a monumental intellectual leap. Ancient astronomers recognized that these celestial bodies followed their own unique rules, moving to a different rhythm than the rest of the cosmos. This understanding was then woven into the fabric of their cultures, transforming planetary movements from mere astronomical events into powerful mythological narratives. The planet Mars might become a god of conflict, its reddish hue seen as an omen, while Jupiter's steady journey could symbolize the benevolence of a king. The architecture built to watch them was more than just an observatory. It was a physical instrument that connected the practical need for a calendar to the profound human desire to find meaning in the night sky, proving that even the most unpredictable wanderers could be understood, anticipated, and ultimately built for. The same mathematical perfection found in a galaxy's spiral or the chamber of a seashell was deliberately chiseled into stone. Ancient architects believed that the cosmos was built upon a foundation of sacred geometry, and by mirroring these divine proportions, they could make their temples resonate with the universe itself. This was not just about beauty, it was about building a direct physical link to cosmic order. In ancient Greece, the Parthenon's majestic form was meticulously designed around the golden ratio. This mathematical relationship, often represented by the number phi, appears in the growth patterns of plants and the structure of hurricanes. The builders used it to dictate the width and height of the facade, the spacing of the columns, and the very layout of the entire structure, creating a visual harmony that feels instinctively right because it echoes the patterns of nature we are surrounded by. This was more than architectural genius, it was a philosophical statement, asserting that human creation could achieve perfection by aligning with the universal language of mathematics. This principle of cosmic mimicry was expressed with equal precision in the temples of India. The Shilpa Shastras, ancient texts on art and architecture, provided exhaustive mathematical formulas for construction. Every dimension of a Hindu temple, from the height of its central tower to the depth of its foundation, was calculated using these sacred ratios. The entire structure was often laid out as a giant mandala, a symbolic diagram of the cosmos, with the central shrine representing the axis of the world. This transformed the temple from a simple building into a microcosm, a miniature universe where the devotee could literally step inside the divine order. The proportions were believed to generate a specific spiritual energy, making the temple not just a representation of the cosmos, but a living, vibrating part of it. Centuries later and a continent away, the master builders of Europe's Gothic cathedrals were pursuing the same profound goal. They embedded their soaring structures with geometric ratios that mirrored the perceived harmonies of the planetary spheres. Medieval scholars spoke of the music of the spheres, a celestial symphony created by the mathematical movements of the planets, a music inaudible to the human ear. The architects of Chartres or Notre Dame sought to make this silent music visible and tangible. They used ratios like the square root of 2 to determine the relationship between a cathedral's width and height, proportions that were also found in the intervals of musical chords considered perfectly harmonious. Stepping into these vast spaces was meant to be an experience of celestial harmony, where the light streaming through stained glass and the lift of the vaulted ceilings created a physical sensation of ascending order. In every case, from Athens to Khajuraho to Paris, the stone itself was speaking a mathematical language. The architects were not just constructing walls and roofs, they were weaving the invisible fabric of the universe into a form that could be seen, touched, and felt. They built their faith directly into the geometry, creating spaces that were, in their very essence, a prayer made of stone and proportion. But the cosmic architecture of these temples was not merely a visual experience. It engaged all the senses, including the power of sound. Deep within the labyrinthine corridors of Chavín de Huanta in Peru, ancient engineers carved a network of stone tubes. These were not drainage channels, but sophisticated acoustic conduits. During key celestial events, such as the rising of a significant star cluster, priests could use these tubes to project sounds throughout the complex. The rumble of a conch shell trumpet, channeled and distorted through the stone, would create a disorienting auditory effect, as if the temple itself were speaking. This sound may have amplified the pronouncements of an oracle, making the celestial event a truly multi-sensory spectacle where the heavens were seen and heard. Far across the Mediterranean, on the island of Malta, the hypogeum presents an even more mysterious acoustic phenomenon. This underground sanctuary contains a chamber known as the oracle room. When someone speaks in a deep voice within this specific chamber, the sound resonates and amplifies, creating a powerful vibration that seems to emanate from the walls themselves. This resonance occurs at a specific, low frequency that some researchers believe can alter human consciousness, perhaps inducing a meditative state conducive to ritual. Could this have been an attempt to create an earthly echo of the harmony of the spheres, an audible representation of the silent music thought to be generated by the planets in their motion? The ancient Greeks took this concept to a grand scale with their open-air theaters. These magnificent structures were carved into hillsides with such acoustic precision that a single unamplified voice from the stage could be heard clearly by thousands in the highest tiers. While used for drama, this architectural mastery also served a celestial purpose. Philosophers like Pythagoras taught that the universe itself was a manifestation of mathematical harmony, a concept known as the music of the spheres. A lecture on astronomy delivered in such a space would have been a profound demonstration of this principle, where the human voice, carrying knowledge of the cosmic order, was projected with perfect clarity, mirroring the idea of a harmonious universe speaking to its people. Together, these acoustic wonders reveal a deeper layer of ancient understanding. Sound was not separate from their cosmic science, it was another dimension of it. By engineering spaces where specific frequencies resonated and voices carried with supernatural clarity, these builders were creating holistic environments. They merged the visual spectacle of a solstice sunrise with the visceral power of resonant sound, crafting complete sensory experiences that immersed participants in the sacred rhythms of the cosmos. The architecture of time was not just seen, it was also heard, felt in the very bones, making the connection between humanity and the heavens an undeniable physical reality. This pursuit of cosmic harmony extended even to the element of water, transforming its still surface into a perfect mirror of the heavens. Ancient architects engineered pools and channels not just for ritual, but to create dual observations, capturing celestial events both in the sky above and in the reflection below. High in the Andes, the mountaintop sanctuary of Machu Picchu reveals this ingenious approach. Its intricate system of stone channels directed water to ceremonial baths, creating perfectly level and stable surfaces. On a clear, windless night, these pools would have acted as ideal astronomical tools. An observer could look down into the water to see the reflected image of a bright star or planet, its position held steady against the stone edges of the pool. This method eliminated the strain and instability of looking directly up at the sky, allowing for more precise tracking of a celestial body's movement across the reflective surface, a natural liquid protractor for mapping the stars. Far earlier, in the meticulously planned city of Mohenjo-Daro within the Indus Valley, the Great Bath presents a similar mystery. This vast, watertight tank, lined with precise brickwork, was certainly a center for community gathering and ritual purification. Yet its careful orientation and expansive, open sky above suggest a second, equally vital function. The still water in the bath would have created a breathtaking mirror of the night sky, a celestial chart laid at the community's feet. Rituals performed here could have been timed to the reflection of a full moon or the specific arrangement of constellations, weaving the cosmic order directly into the fabric of spiritual life. This practice of celestial reflection reached a sublime peak in the courtyards of classical Islamic architecture. Here, reflecting pools were placed not as tools for measurement, but as profound philosophical statements. The still water in a mosque's courtyard would capture the perfect, inverted image of the moon or a bright evening star, creating a visual metaphor for the connection between the earthly and heavenly realms. The real star and its watery double symbolize the belief in a duality of existence, the material world we see and the perfect spiritual reality it reflects. This was astronomy as meditation, where the act of observation became a moment of deep spiritual contemplation, Across these diverse cultures, water served a unified purpose. Its calm surface provided a stable, alternative platform for observation, free from the tremors of the human body. More poetically, it completed a symbolic circuit, bringing the vast, distant cosmos down to a human scale. In these sacred spaces, you did not just look up at the stars, you stood with the universe at your feet, a tangible reminder that the cosmic order was not remote, but intimately connected to the world you walked upon. What other elemental forces did these master builders harness in their quest to unite the human spirit with the rhythms of the sky? These animal symbols were far more than mere decoration. They were the physical embodiment of celestial knowledge. To understand the heavens, ancient cultures gave the constellations a familiar face, turning abstract star patterns into a vibrant celestial menagerie that walked, fought, and loved in the stories told from one generation to the next. The Grand Avenue leading to the great temple of Amun-Ra at Karnak is lined with sphinxes, mythical creatures with the body of a lion and the head of a ram. This was not a random choice. The ram was associated with the god Amun, and the avenue itself was precisely aligned. During significant festivals, the rising sun or the appearance of specific stars in the constellation of Leo, the lion, would have transformed this processional path into a cosmic stage, where the earthly symbols directly mirrored the celestial ones playing out in the sky above. This created a powerful, multi-layered experience where a priest walking the avenue was simultaneously reenacting a celestial drama. Inside the temple, this symbolism deepened. Deities like the jackal-headed Anubis or the falcon-headed Horus were not just artistic conventions. Their very forms tied them to specific celestial bodies. The positions of these animal-headed statues within the temple's dark, labyrinthine halls were often carefully planned. A shaft of light from a strategically placed window might illuminate the statue of a hawk god at the very moment that the star Sirius, which they associated with that deity, first became visible in the dawn sky. This moment of illumination, where stone and star were linked by a beam of light, would have been a breathtaking confirmation of divine presence, a direct communication from the cosmos using the language of animal symbolism. This brilliant integration of light, shadow, and myth reached a spectacular peak in Maya civilization. At the Pyramid of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza, the architects engineered one of the most dramatic celestial displays known to the ancient world. On the afternoons of the spring and autumn equinoxes, the setting sun casts a series of triangular shadows down the balustrades of the main staircase. These interlocking shadows connect to massive stone serpent heads at the base, creating the undulating body of a great plumed serpent, the god Kukulkan, slithering down from the heavens to the earth. This was not a subtle alignment for priests alone. It was a public spectacle that brought a core mythological narrative to life in a way everyone could see and understand. The descent of the celestial serpent marked a time of balance, a moment for planting and ritual that was announced not by a person, but by the sun itself, using the temple as its instrument. The pyramid became a storybook written in light and shadow, its pages turning only twice a year, ensuring the myth and its astronomical timing were unforgettable. This desire to make the planetary relationships tangible is beautifully preserved in the stone canvases of Hindu temples. Across southern India, temple gateways and walls are adorned with intricate sculptures of the Navagrahas, the 9 planetary deities. This group includes the sun and moon, the 5 classical planets visible to the naked eye, and 2 shadowy celestial points. Each is personified, often shown riding a specific animal vehicle. But their arrangement is not random. It is a frozen diagram of cosmic relationships. They are typically carved in a specific geometric order that reflects their perceived astronomical hierarchy and orbital cycles. For a community that revered these planets as divine forces influencing life on Earth, this sculptural arrangement was a permanent teaching tool. A devotee could look upon the 9 figures and grasp the complex interplay of celestial powers that shaped their world, all conveyed through the familiar and powerful language of animal and deity. The lion of the sun, the owl of the moon, the dragon of the descending lunar node, these animal associations made the invisible forces of the cosmos recognizable and relatable. Ultimately, this use of animal symbolism served a profound and practical purpose. Before widespread literacy, complex astronomical knowledge needed to be preserved in a form that was both durable and easily transmitted. By weaving this knowledge into the very fabric of their myths and carving those myths directly onto their temples, these cultures created a fail-safe system. The story of the descending serpent preserved the precise date of the equinox. The statue of the hawk god marked the rising of a critical star. The arrangement of the 9 planetary deities taught their hierarchical order. The temple itself became a library, its books written in stone and shadow, its stories told by the sun and the stars. This was genius, transforming the cold, hard data of celestial mechanics into the warm, living breath of story, ensuring that the architecture of time would be remembered not just as a calculation, but as a legend. Even the stone itself was chosen with cosmic intention. The great sarsen stones of Stonehenge were transported over great distances, a monumental effort that suggests their unique properties were as important as their strength. Beyond their obvious durability, these specific stones possess a surprising acoustic quality. When struck, they produce a distinct, resonant ring, a deep chime that would have filled the ceremonial space during rituals timed to solstices and lunar standstills. This sonic dimension transformed the stone circle from a silent calendar into a living instrument, its vibrations physically felt by those within, harmonizing human ceremony with the silent music of the spheres they so carefully tracked. The material was not merely functional, it was vibrational, chosen to make the cosmic connection an experience for the entire body. This philosophy of meaningful material extended to the painted temples of the Maya. They coated their limestone pyramids in brilliant white stucco and then painted them with vibrant red pigments. This was not simply for grandeur. During a solar alignment, the stark white surface would create crisp, high-contrast shadows, turning the pyramid into a giant, readable sundial. The red paint, a color associated with the life-giving power of the sun and of blood, added a layer of sacred symbolism. As the shadow of the serpent slid down the staircase at Chichen Itza, it moved across a red canvas, a visual representation of a celestial god animating a temple of life. Furthermore, the Maya prized jade above all else, inlaying it into carvings and adorning their rulers with it. They saw jade not just as a precious stone, but as a piece of the cosmos itself, its cool, green color symbolizing celestial water, wind, and the eternal vitality of the maize plant. By incorporating jade into a temple's art, they were embedding the building with the very essence of these life-giving forces, directly linking the structure's astronomical function to the renewal of the world. On the other side of the globe, Chinese astronomers employed a different kind of material magic. In some ancient temples, archaeologists have uncovered highly polished bronze mirrors. While they served many purposes, one compelling theory suggests they were used as precise astronomical tools. In a dark inner chamber, a mirror could be strategically angled to catch the first or last ray of the sun on a significant day, or to reflect the light of a particular star into the darkness for closer observation by a priest. This transformed a simple metal object into an extension of the temple's architecture, a dynamic component that could actively capture and redirect celestial light, bringing the distant cosmos into the heart of the most sacred spaces. From the ringing stones of Britain to the reflective mirrors of China, every substance was selected for its dual role. Each material served a practical purpose in marking time or observing the heavens, while simultaneously carrying a profound symbolic weight that rooted the temple's function in a deeper cosmological story. The architecture of time was not just a matter of alignment and angle. It was a symphony of stone, pigment, and metal, each element carefully chosen to resonate with the universe on every possible level. These celestial clocks were not just for ceremony, they were the very heartbeat of survival, turning cosmic alignments into a practical guide for when to plant and when to harvest. The Intihuatana stone at Machu Picchu stands as a masterful example of this agricultural necessity carved from granite. Often called the hitching post of the sun, this intricately carved pillar was a sophisticated, multi-functional sundial. Its precise angles and shadows marked the exact dates of the solstices and equinoxes, the turning points of the year. In the challenging altitudes of the Andes, where a single frost could destroy a crop, knowing the precise moment the sun began its return was not a matter of philosophy, it was a matter of life. The stone's readings told the community when the rains were due and when the soil was warm enough for potatoes and maize, synchronizing their labor with the unerring rhythm of the cosmos. This was high-altitude farming guided by a stone clock, a direct collaboration with the sun to coax life from a rugged landscape. Far to the north, in the tropical lowlands of the Maya, the sun presented a different kind of calendar. Here, it passes directly overhead twice a year, an event known as the zenith passage. On these days, vertical objects cast no shadow at noon. The Maya engineered their pyramid complexes to mark this unique phenomenon. A specific alignment between structures would frame the sun at its zenith, or a shadow would vanish in a particular way, signaling a date of immense practical importance. The zenith sun coincided with the onset of the vital rainy season, the signal to begin planting the maize that was the foundation of their world. A ceremony held at that exact moment fused spiritual practice with agricultural imperative, asking the gods for rain at the very time science said it should arrive. Across the Atlantic, the Neolithic farmers of Ireland encoded their own calendar into the landscape. The Great Passage tomb of Noth is surrounded by massive curbstones, many engraved with intricate spirals and radiating lines. These are not random patterns. Researchers believe they functioned as a permanent solar calendar, with specific markings illuminated by the rising or setting sun on key days like the equinoxes or the cross-quarter days that marked the midpoints between solstices. These were the dates that divided the pastoral year, signaling when to move livestock, when to sow, and when to prepare for the long winter. The community that gathered at this tomb was not just honoring ancestors, it was receiving its annual farming schedule from the sun itself, read directly from the illuminated stone. In every case, the temple was the community's central processing unit for celestial data. It was where the priests, the ancient scientists, interpreted the messages from the sky and translated them into directives for the entire society. The spiritual significance of the solstice was inseparable from the practical need to plant maize. The reverence for the sun's power was one and the same as the gratitude for a successful harvest. This architecture of time did more than mark the seasons. It wove the struggle for survival into a sacred narrative, ensuring that every seed planted was also an act of faith and every harvest a divine blessing. The very path a worshipper walked was a celestial map in motion. Ancient architects designed entire ritual landscapes where movement through space was choreographed to mirror the rhythms of the cosmos. At the sprawling temple complex of Karnak in Egypt, the Great Avenue of Sphinxes served as far more than a grand entrance. This long processional route was precisely aligned so that during the winter solstice festival, the setting sun would fire its last rays directly down the corridor, bathing the entire pathway in a deep, golden light. For a priest or pharaoh processing toward the inner sanctuary, this was not a passive journey. They were walking a road of sun fire, physically stepping through a corridor of celestial power at the very moment the sun reached its annual turning point. The ritual became a reenactment of the sun's own journey, a fusion of human ceremony and solar event that blurred the line between earth and sky. Far across the world, the builders of Teotihuacan achieved a similar effect on a monumental scale. The city's main artery, the Avenue of the Dead, stretches for miles, its alignment fixed not on a solar event but on a starry one. It points directly toward the setting point of the Pleiades star cluster. For the people of this ancient metropolis, the heliacal setting of these stars held profound significance, marking a pivotal moment in their agricultural and ceremonial calendar. A procession moving along this avenue under a clear night sky would have seen the Pleiades descending ahead of them, as if the path itself was leading them toward the very heart of the heavens. Their physical movement on the ground was synchronized with the celestial motion above, making them active participants in a cosmic dance. In Greece, the sacred way leading to the oracle at Delphi reveals a more subtle form of celestial choreography. This path was not a straight line but a winding route that ascended the slopes of Mount Parnassus. Its turns and specific resting points were not arbitrary. They were carefully planned to frame specific astronomical features at key moments during religious festivals. A pilgrim rounding a particular bend might suddenly see a specific mountain peak, with a rising sun or a bright star appearing directly above it at a predetermined time. These moments of revelation were architectural surprises, designed to create a series of awe-inspiring vistas that connected the traveler's spiritual ascent to the orderly beauty of the cosmos. What does this tell us? These cultures were not just building temples, they were engineering entire ritual experiences. By aligning pathways with celestial events, they transformed the act of walking into a powerful spiritual practice. You did not just go to a temple to observe the cosmos, you moved through a landscape that was the cosmos. Every step along the Sphinx-lined avenue at Karnak, every journey down the Avenue of the Dead, was a physical enactment of humanity's place within a vast, interconnected universe. The architecture of time was not a static observation. It was a journey you took with your own body, a walking meditation that wove your individual story into the eternal story of the stars. These architectural observatories represent the ultimate fusion of sacred space and scientific instrument, where the building itself became a machine for reading the sky. In the heart of Jaipur, India, the Jantar Mantar complex stands as a breathtaking testament to this principle. Here, you will not find delicate brass devices, but colossal geometric structures carved from stone and marble. The Samrat Yantra, for instance, is a giant sundial towering over 90 feet high. Its massive triangular gnomon casts a shadow that moves across curved marble scales at a rate you can almost see, measuring time down to an accuracy of just 2 seconds. Nearby, other vast instruments, like the Ram Yantra, consist of paired circular structures with open tops and graduated floors, designed to measure the altitude and azimuth of the sun and stars. This was not a portable toolkit, it was an entire landscape of astronomy, a permanent, immutable observatory built to withstand the centuries and ensure its precise readings would never be lost. The architecture itself was the precision instrument, its colossal scale actually increasing its accuracy, and its static form guaranteeing that every measurement was repeatable by every generation. This same ambition for permanent celestial tracking was achieved on a smaller, but equally brilliant, scale within the Caracol Tower at Chichen Itza. From the outside, its unique spiral shape hints at its purpose, but the true genius lies in its narrow, strategically placed windows. these are not random openings. Specific slots are aligned with the extreme northern and southern setting points of Venus on the horizon. As the planet completes its complex 584-day cycle, its light would, on the most critical nights, pierce these specific dark openings, announcing its position to an observer within the tower's core. The temple did not merely house an astronomer, it became the astronomer's primary tool, a fixed planetary sighting device engineered directly into the masonry. This eliminated any human error from setting up movable equipment, creating a foolproof system that locked celestial events into architectural form. Even the classical Greeks, known for their portable armillary spheres, integrated this fixed approach into their sacred spaces. Certain temples contained carefully carved grooves in their stone floors or precisely placed markers on their walls that functioned as fixed sighting stations. A priest would stand at a specific, marked point and look across a permanent alignment, perhaps toward a distant mountain notch or through a special aperture in a columned screen. When a particular star rose or set in that exact frame, it marked a sacred date with architectural certainty. These built-in systems transformed the temple from a passive backdrop into an active participant in celestial measurement. Why go to such lengths to build what could not be moved? The answer lies in the pursuit of permanence in a world of change. Portable devices can be broken, lost, or misinterpreted over generations. But a sundial the size of a building, or a stone window aligned to a planet's cycle, becomes a permanent part of the cultural landscape. It ensures that the most critical knowledge a civilization possesses, the rhythm of time itself, is encoded not on fragile parchment, but in the very foundations of its most sacred spaces. This was the ultimate legacy of the architecture of time, a promise carved in stone that the dialogue between earth and sky would never be silenced. The direction a temple faced was never arbitrary, it was a declaration of cosmic truth. Every doorway oriented to the rising sun, every gateway aligned to a cardinal point, was a profound statement about how the universe was structured and humanity's sacred place within that grand design. In Hindu tradition, the temple is a physical form of the cosmos itself, and its unwavering orientation toward the east is fundamental. This alignment to the dawn is a symbolic gesture toward enlightenment, a daily architectural prayer for spiritual awakening as the sun's first light washes over the entrance. But the sacred geometry extends far beyond the horizontal plane. The temple's vertical form, from its deepest foundation to the pinnacle of its central tower, is conceived as the world axis. This axis, known as the Mount Meru of mythology, is the spiritual pillar connecting the earthly realm directly to the celestial realms of the gods. To walk through an eastern gateway and toward the inner sanctum is to embark on a symbolic journey along this axis, moving from the outer world of illusion toward the inner core of divine reality. This entire path is choreographed by the building's cosmic alignment. The Buddhist stupa presents a different but equally intentional model of the universe. Its hemispherical dome represents the dome of the sky, often surmounted by a central spire that again echoes the world axis. The stupa's harmika, the square railing at the top of the dome, is frequently oriented with gates facing the four cardinal directions. These are not merely entrances, they are symbolic portals through which the Buddha's compassion and teachings radiate outward to permeate all corners of the known world. A devotee walking a clockwise path around the stupa, a ritual known as circumambulation, is not just showing respect, they are tracing the perimeter of a sacred cosmos, their movement mirroring the orderly revolution of the planets and stars around the central axis of existence. This architectural form makes the entire universe a place of meditation. In the traditions of many Native American nations, this cosmic symbolism is woven into more intimate, elemental structures. The Lakota Sweat Lodge is a powerful example. Its circular frame, often made of pliable willow branches, represents the cycle of life and the encompassing universe. The entrance consistently faces the east, the direction of the rising sun, wisdom, and new beginnings. Participants enter from this direction, leaving the ordinary world behind. Within the dark, heated space of the lodge, the four directions are honored and invoked, along with the sky above and the earth below. This creates a complete, self-contained cosmos in miniature, where the ritual of purification and prayer takes place at the very center of a spiritually mapped world. The lodge itself becomes a living entity. Its orientation and form a direct expression of a cosmological understanding where every direction holds specific spiritual power and meaning. What unites these diverse traditions, from the stone temples of India to the earthen lodges of the Great Plains, is a shared language of sacred space. The cardinal directions were not just points on a compass, they were pillars of a cosmic order. East was universally tied to birth, light, and beginnings. West often symbolized the setting sun, transformation, and the journey to the afterlife. North and South could represent the realms of ancestors, celestial poles, or other fundamental dualities. By building their sacred spaces according to this universal map, these cultures were physically grounding their most important creation stories and spiritual journeys. The temple was not just a building where myths were told, it was a machine where myths were experienced. Its orientation ensured that every ritual, every prayer, and every step a worshipper took was in harmony with the fundamental architecture of the cosmos itself. How many other ancient pathways were designed not just to lead you to a destination, but to guide you through the universe? These sacred structures became three-dimensional maps of the cosmos, physical journeys through entire spiritual universes. In the heart of Java, the immense Buddhist temple of Borobudur rises from the landscape as a colossal stone mandala. Pilgrims do not simply enter this monument, they embark on a prescribed upward spiral, walking a path of cosmic ascent. Each of its 9 terraced levels represents a distinct stage toward enlightenment, a progression from the world of desire at the base through the world of forms, and finally to the formless realm of pure spirit at the summit. The journey is the destination, a physical pilgrimage that mirrors the soul's metaphysical journey toward nirvana. Every step upward is a symbolic step inward, transforming an abstract spiritual concept into an architectural experience you can walk with your own feet. The temple is not a building about cosmology, it is a working model of the Buddhist universe made entirely of stone. This same principle of the cosmic mountain manifests in the soaring towers of Hindu temple complexes across India. These structures are not just inspired by mythology, they are direct architectural representations of Mount Meru, the axis of the world. The central tower, or Shikara, symbolizes the mountain's peak, the home of the gods. Surrounding it, smaller subsidiary towers often represent the lesser mountain ranges described in sacred texts, with the entire temple complex laid out as a precise diagram of the celestial realms. To move from the outer walls toward the dark, sacred heart of the inner sanctum is to travel symbolically from the periphery of the known world to the very center of the universe. This architectural journey makes the worshipper a traveler across cosmic geography, grounding a vast and complex belief system into a path you can physically walk. Long before these Asian marvels, the Ziggurats of Mesopotamia reached for the heavens as stairways between worlds. These massive stepped pyramids with their ramps and tiers were not just platforms for priests, they were symbolic bridges. Each level was understood to represent a different sphere of existence, from the earthly plane at the base to the divine realm at the apex. When a priest ascended the ziggurat during a ritual, he was not just climbing a staircase, he was traversing the cosmic layers that separated humanity from the gods. His ascent was a powerful reenactment of a spiritual journey, moving from the mundane into the presence of the divine. The architecture itself facilitated this connection, making the temple a literal gateway where heaven and earth met. What was the profound impact of walking through these symbolic universes? This experiential architecture transformed worshippers from passive observers into active participants in their own cosmology. You did not just hear stories about Mount Meru, you walked its slopes. You did not just learn about the path to enlightenment, you traced its spiral. These structures made the most profound truths of a culture tangible, turning faith into a physical landscape. They were the ultimate teaching tools, using the power of place and movement to impart a deep, intuitive understanding of cosmic order. How many other ancient sites were designed not just to be seen, but to be journeyed through, their very stones guiding you through the architecture of belief itself? This specialized knowledge was not for everyone. It was carefully guarded by an elite class of cosmic interpreters. Within the towering Ziggurats of Babylon, priests ascended long ramps to elevated platforms high above the city. From these sacred perches, they meticulously tracked the wandering paths of planets against the fixed stars, recording their positions on clay tablets using the precise wedge-shaped script of cuneiform. Night after night, they logged the retrograde motion of Mars and the steady progression of Jupiter, slowly uncovering the mathematical patterns that governed these movements. This systematic observation, conducted from the heights of their temple towers, evolved into a sophisticated mathematical astronomy. Their detailed records of planetary cycles and eclipse predictions would later form the foundational knowledge that Greek scientists would inherit and build upon. This was not casual stargazing. It was a rigorous professional science born from a temple's unique architectural advantage. Similarly, the grand temples of Egypt were designed with layers of access, creating a hierarchy of celestial knowledge. Beyond the open courtyards accessible to the public lay a series of increasingly restricted halls and chambers. Deeper within the stone labyrinth, specific alignments were engineered for an exclusive audience. A narrow slit in a wall, invisible to most, might allow a single beam of sunlight to strike a golden statue on one day of the year, a moment witnessed only by the initiated high priests. This controlled access to celestial phenomena was a source of immense spiritual and political power. By claiming the unique ability to interpret these divine messages, the priests maintained their role as the essential intermediaries between the people and the gods, translating the raw data of a solstice or a star's rising into directives for planting, harvest, and royal ceremony. Across the Atlantic, the Maya engineered their pyramid temples with the same intention. Certain structures, like the Caracol at Chichen Itza, contained small, cramped observation chambers at their summit, accessible only to a select few. From these privileged vantage points, elite astronomer priests would monitor the horizon for the appearance of Venus as the morning or evening star. Their observations allowed them to calculate its complex 584-day cycle with astonishing accuracy, information recorded in their sacred codices. This precise celestial knowledge was directly translated into power, dictating the timing of warfare, the legitimacy of a new king, and the sacred calendar that organized their entire world. The architecture itself facilitated this monopoly on cosmic interpretation. The restricted sightlines, the hidden chambers, and the elevated platforms all served to concentrate astronomical expertise into the hands of a specialized class. These priest astronomers transformed the chaotic beauty of the night sky into a structured, predictable system. They were the original data scientists, using their temples as both observatory and office, turning celestial observations into the practical and spiritual framework that held their societies together. Their authority was built not just on faith, but on a demonstrable, repeatable mastery of the cosmos, a mastery made possible by the very design of their sacred spaces. But the sky itself was not a fixed clock, its gears shifting imperceptibly over centuries. A slow wobble in the Earth's rotation, known as precession, gradually changes the positions of the stars and the precise timing of solar events over a cycle of nearly 26,000 years. This meant that a temple perfectly aligned to a star at its founding might find that same star drifting from its sacred sightline over generations. Astonishingly, the archaeological record suggests that ancient builders were not just aware of this cosmic drift, they engineered their sacred sites to adapt to it. At the sprawling temple complex of Karnak in Egypt, the story is written in stone across centuries of construction. The great temple of Amun-Ra, built during the New Kingdom, is aligned to the winter solstice sunrise. Yet, earlier structures on the same site, built over 1,000 years before, show a slightly different orientation. Some researchers interpret this as a deliberate, multi-generational correction, a slow pivoting of the entire sacred complex to keep pace with the sun's shifting path across the sky. Each new pharaoh, in expanding the temple, may have been subtly recalibrating the cosmic connection established by his ancestors, ensuring the solstice light would continue to strike the altar with perfect precision. This was architecture thinking in timescales far beyond a single human life. On the windswept Salisbury Plain, Stonehenge presents a similar puzzle of celestial adaptation. The monument we see today is the product of construction phases spanning over 1,000 years. The orientations of its various components, from the older Aubrey holes to the massive central sarsens, do not all point to the same celestial targets. The earliest earthworks and the later giant trilithons capture different moments in the slow dance of precession. This suggests that the people who built and used Stonehenge were not just marking a single, eternal alignment, but were actively tracking and responding to the sky's gradual transformation, updating their great stone calendar to reflect the new realities of the cosmos. This long-term thinking was not merely intuitive, it was codified in sacred texts. Ancient Hindu architectural manuals, the Shilpa Shastras, contain detailed instructions for temple construction that include astronomical corrections for precession in the timing of rituals. These texts reveal a formal, scholarly awareness that the celestial framework was in constant, if glacial, motion. A temple built to last for millennia needed its spiritual clockwork to be adjustable, its alignments calculated not just for the present but for the distant future. This required a scientific tradition capable of passing precise observational data down through countless generations. What does this tell us about their understanding of the universe? They saw it not as a static painting but as a dynamic, evolving system. Their architecture demonstrates a profound grasp of deep time, an acknowledgement that the relationship between earth and sky was a conversation that unfolded across ages. By building structures that could be adapted over centuries, they were creating a dialogue with the future, ensuring that their descendants would also be able to read the messages written in the stars long after the original architects had passed into memory. How many other ancient sites hold these subtle, multi-generational corrections, hiding a sophisticated understanding of cosmic time in the slow turn of their stone foundations? How is it possible for civilizations separated by vast oceans and millennia to build such similar cosmic clocks in stone? A profound mystery emerges when we look at the pyramids of Egypt and those of the Maya. Both are precisely oriented to the cardinal directions, their grand stairways and doorways capturing the sun on the solstices. These cultures never met, their technologies developed in complete isolation, and yet they arrived at the same architectural solution for connecting their most sacred structures to the heavens. This is not a case of shared blueprints, but of a shared human instinct, a universal impulse to build our understanding of the cosmos directly into the landscape. The same pattern appears in the ancient stone circles scattered across the globe. The massive sarsens of Stonehenge in Britain and the older, smaller megaliths of Nabta Playa in the West African desert both use rings of stone to mark the sun's path and the rising of significant stars. Though built by different peoples for different ceremonial needs, the fundamental form of the circle, divided and marked by astronomical alignments, emerged independently as the perfect shape for observing the turning sky. It seems that when humanity looks up, certain architectural answers to celestial questions become almost inevitable. This convergence extends to sacred geometry as well. The intricate mandala that forms the blueprint for a Hindu temple, with its concentric squares and gates facing the four directions, is a symbolic map of the cosmos. Across the world, the Native American medicine wheel, a circle of stones with spokes radiating to the cardinal points, serves a nearly identical symbolic purpose. Both are circular forms divided according to cosmic principles, representing a universal human intuition about the structure of the universe, translated into stone and earth. What does this tell us? The architecture of time appears to be a fundamental thread in the tapestry of human consciousness. From the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Central America, from the plains of North America to the river basins of India, people looked at the same sun, moon, and stars. They experienced the same primal need to predict the seasons, to find meaning in the celestial cycles, and to honor the divine order they perceived overhead. Their cultural stories and deities were wonderfully unique, but their architectural response to the cosmos reveals a deeper, shared human language. They all chose to build permanent witnesses, to encode celestial time into physical form, creating a legacy that suggests our connection to the sky is one of the very things that makes us human. Stone has a memory that outlasts empires. While libraries could burn and oral traditions could fade, the solar alignment of an Egyptian temple doorway remained unerringly precise, a celestial clock that kept ticking through conquests and dynastic changes. Foreign rulers might occupy the land, their languages and gods replacing the old ones, but the sun did not care. Each year, at the appointed hour, it would send its beam through the same stone aperture to mark the solstice, preserving a complex calendrical science in a language of light that required no translation. This was knowledge built to survive. The very stones of Karnak or Abu Simbel held an instruction manual for reading the sky, one that continued to function perfectly long after the original priests and their intricate understanding had passed from living memory. The architecture became a silent teacher, waiting for a future generation to notice the pattern and learn the lesson all over again. This resilience is perhaps most poignant in the abandoned Maya cities. When the classic period collapse swept through the region, great urban centers were reclaimed by the jungle, and the detailed astronomical records kept in bark paper codices largely vanished. Yet the temples themselves, shrouded by vines and silence, never stopped their work. The pyramid of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza continued to cast the shadow of the descending serpent on each equinox, year after year, century after century. The astronomical alignments engineered into the Caracol Tower remained fixed on the horizon, waiting for Venus to appear in its designated slot. When later peoples eventually rediscovered these sites, they encountered not just ruins but a fully operational cosmic observatory. The original meaning behind the alignments may have been temporarily lost, but the precise data was permanently saved in the angles of the masonry, a durable backup of celestial knowledge that could be rebooted by anyone who learned to read the stones. In India, this principle of architectural preservation allowed profound astronomical principles to weather profound cultural shifts. Hindu temple architecture, governed by ancient texts known as the Shilpa Shastras, encoded specific cosmic ratios and alignments into its very blueprint. Through centuries of foreign influence, internal reformations, and evolving religious practices, the core mathematical rules for temple construction remained remarkably consistent. The sun continued to rise over the eastern gateway of a temple built 1,000 years ago in the same way it does for one built last year, because the architectural canon preserved the underlying cosmic order. The temple was not just a place for the faith of the moment, it was a vessel for timeless knowledge, ensuring that the relationship between the earth and the cosmos, so carefully measured by ancient seers, would be physically maintained for future generations to inherit and comprehend. This reveals the ultimate genius of the architecture of time. It created a knowledge preservation system with incredible temporal endurance. Written records can be lost, reinterpreted, or deliberately destroyed, but a 3-ton stone block, set at a specific angle to the horizon, is far more difficult to erase. It stands as a permanent witness, a truth written in geometry and light. These temples became time capsules not of artifacts, but of ideas, safeguarding a sophisticated understanding of cosmic cycles through the rise and fall of civilizations themselves. They ensured that even after a dark age, the sun's path could be measured again, the seasons predicted, and the connection between humanity and the heavens restored, all because someone, long ago, chose to write their science not on paper but on the world. The silent stones finally found their voice through the lens of modern science. For centuries, the astronomical alignments of ancient temples were either dismissed as coincidence or shrouded in romantic speculation. Then, in the 1960s, a pivotal shift occurred. American astronomer Gerald Hawkins brought a powerful new tool to the mystery, a computer. He fed the precise positions of Stonehenge's massive stones into his machine, running calculations to see if their arrangement matched known celestial events. The results were stunning. Hawkins identified not just the famous solstice alignment, but a complex network of sightlines targeting the sun, moon, and even eclipses. His work suggested Stonehenge was not a simple calendar, but a sophisticated Neolithic computer capable of predicting lunar cycles and celestial phenomena. This was a revolutionary idea, forcing archaeologists to reconsider the intellectual capacity of our ancient ancestors. It was no longer enough to just dig, one had to look up. Around the same time, British engineer Alexander Thom was conducting his own meticulous surveys. He traveled across Britain, measuring hundreds of stone circles with the precision of a modern surveyor. Thom discovered that these sites were not rough approximations, but were built with a startlingly advanced understanding of geometry and astronomy. He found consistent use of a standard unit of measurement, which he called the megalithic yard, and identified alignments to the minor standstills of the moon, events that occur only once every 18.6 years. Thom's work painted a picture of Neolithic Britain as a society of master astronomers and engineers, capable of complex long-term celestial observation and translating that knowledge into monumental architecture with mathematical rigor. This new field, known as Archaeoastronomy, was born from such collaborations, merging the dirt of the excavation with the data of the planetarium. Far from the British Isles, the jungles of Mesoamerica offered another perfect laboratory. Mexican architect and archaeologist Jesus Galindo Trillo dedicated his career to decoding the celestial architecture of the Maya. By combining his architectural expertise with precise astronomical software, he documented how specific temples were engineered as permanent planetary trackers. He demonstrated that narrow windows in structures like the governor's palace at Uxmal were precisely aligned with the extreme rising and setting points of Venus. These alignments perfectly matched the complex Venus tables found in surviving Maya codices, proving that the buildings themselves were the physical expression of their advanced astronomical records. This was not just theory, it was a direct correlation between written history and architectural intent. The work of these pioneers and countless others has fundamentally changed our understanding of these sacred spaces. We can no longer view a pyramid as solely a tomb or a stone circle as merely a ritual site. They were also the great observatories of their age, the research centers where priest astronomers mapped the heavens. Every aligned doorway and strategically placed window was a line of code in a vast stone-written program designed to process the data of the cosmos. The very stones beneath our feet are humming with celestial knowledge, and we are only now learning how to listen. The very ground a temple stood upon was a crucial part of its astronomical design. Ancient builders did not simply choose a location for its beauty or convenience. They selected sites that transformed the entire landscape into a giant celestial measuring instrument. In ancient Greece, the most sacred temples were almost always built on elevated acropolises. These high citadels did more than just offer protection. They provided an unobstructed 360-degree view of the horizon. From these commanding heights, priests could watch the precise point on the distant horizon where a star would first appear at dawn, or note the exact location of the setting sun as it dipped behind a distant island. This clear, panoramic vista was essential for accurate observation, turning the entire temple complex into a natural observatory where the sky's movements could be tracked with the naked eye against a clean, defined horizon line. The elevation was not just symbolic, it was a fundamental requirement for their celestial science. On the other side of the world, the Maya demonstrated an even more sophisticated integration of landscape and sky. They frequently positioned their towering pyramids to create long, precise sightlines that stretched for miles. A temple doorway might be aligned not just with the sun itself, but with a specific notch between two distant mountain peaks. On the day of a solstice or equinox, the sun would rise or set directly in that natural gateway, its light framed by the earth itself before streaming into the sacred space. This practice extended the temple's alignment far beyond its own walls, weaving the immutable features of the landscape directly into their cosmic calendar. The mountain became a permanent, unchanging marker in their astronomical calculations, a part of the architecture that required no construction, only brilliant observation. Across Europe, the Celtic peoples selected their sacred sites with a similar eye for the horizon. They often chose locations where the skyline presented distinctive, unmistakable features, a lone hill, a peculiar rock formation, or a sharp valley cleft. These natural landmarks served as fixed reference points for tracking the sun's shifting path throughout the year. The most important solar events, like the solstices, would be marked by the sun rising or setting directly behind one of these prominent features. This created a celestial partnership between the built ritual space and the enduring shape of the land, making the surrounding hills and valleys active participants in their ceremonial life. Why go to such trouble? These strategic locations reveal a masterful synthesis of spiritual and practical thinking. A site was sacred not only for its symbolic power, but for its functional utility in reading the heavens. By building where the natural topography provided clear horizons or distinct markers, these ancient astronomers enhanced the precision of their observations without needing complex instruments. They understood that the most reliable tools were often provided by nature itself, and by carefully choosing where to place their temples, they could harness the entire landscape as a component of their cosmic clock. This deep connection between built form and natural feature created a sacred geography where every mountain, every valley, and every temple was a single, integrated system for measuring the grand, turning mechanism of the sky. These architectural marvels were designed not just to be seen, but to be felt deep within the human spirit. Walking into a dark, windowless chamber after months of short, cold days, only to witness a single, brilliant blade of sunlight pierce the gloom and strike a golden statue precisely on the winter solstice, was far more than a calendar event. It was a visceral, emotional shock, a physical affirmation that the cosmic order was real and dependable. In that moment of collective awe, the abstract belief in a returning sun was transformed into an undeniable, shared experience. This was not passive observation, it was psychological validation engineered in stone and light. The architects of these spaces understood that to make a belief unshakable, it had to be felt with the entire being. They crafted environments where the universe itself seemed to speak directly to the community, using the temple as its mouthpiece. The careful choreography of a ritual procession amplified this effect. A worshipper moving through the Grand Avenue at Karnak did not see the entire celestial alignment at once. The experience was parceled out step by step, building a slow, mounting anticipation. First, the towering statues lining the path, then the glimpse of the distant gateway, and finally, the moment of revelation as the setting sun ignited the entire corridor in a blaze of golden light at the journey's climax. This structured unfolding turned a simple walk into a powerful narrative, with a clear beginning, middle, and an awe-inspiring conclusion written by the cosmos. The participant did not just learn about the solstice, they lived a story where they played a part in a cosmic drama, a memory etched into their mind far more deeply than any spoken lesson could achieve. These profound psychological experiences were then woven directly into the most important moments of community life. When a society gathered for a king's coronation or a seasonal festival within a space aligned to the heavens, the message was unmistakable. The success of the harvest, the legitimacy of a ruler, the very rhythm of life and culture were all presented as being in direct harmony with the universe. The temple, by framing these human affairs within the grand, predictable cycles of the sun and stars, gave them a divine context. It reassured the community that their laws, their leaders, and their traditions were not merely human inventions, but reflections of a celestial blueprint. This fusion of cosmic pattern and cultural value created a resilient worldview, one that could withstand hardship because it was rooted in something eternal and observable. The true genius of these ancient designers lay in their intuitive grasp of human psychology. They knew that a truth witnessed is more powerful than a truth told. By creating spaces where celestial events became direct, sensory spectacles, they forged an unbreakable link in the minds of their people between the sacred and the scientific, between the rituals of earth and the rhythms of the sky. They built belief not through dogma, but through wonder, crafting moments of sublime revelation that convinced the heart as surely as the mind. This digital resurrection is peeling back layers of time to see the sky with ancient eyes. Using advanced three-dimensional modeling software, researchers are now performing virtual archaeology on these sacred sites. They can digitally strip away centuries of renovations, collapses, and even entire cities that grew up around a temple, restoring its original form. Then they feed this pristine digital model into planetarium software, which can rewind the stars with pinpoint accuracy. This allows them to test a critical question: did this doorway truly align with the star Sirius 4,000 years ago, before the Earth's slow wobble shifted its position? The answer is often a resounding yes, confirming alignments that were once speculative with mathematical certainty. For instance, digital reconstructions of the Parthenon have verified that its eastern doorway was perfectly positioned to illuminate the statue of Athena, not just on one date, but across a specific ceremonial window, revealing a more nuanced solar calendar than previously understood. Beyond single buildings, satellite imagery and laser scanning, known as LiDAR, are revealing a hidden layer of celestial geography. By firing laser pulses from aircraft and measuring their return, LiDAR can see through dense jungle canopies to map the ground beneath. This technology has unveiled vast, invisible networks of causeways and smaller structures surrounding major Maya cities. These newly discovered features often form long, straight sightlines, extending the temple's astronomical alignments for miles across the landscape, connecting multiple structures into a single, giant observatory. The temple was not an isolated instrument, but the central node in an enormous cosmic web carved into the earth itself. This technological bridge allows us to virtually stand in the restored Great Temple of Karnak as it was in 1350 BC. We can witness the winter solstice sun rise and cast its beam down the exact axis it was designed for, an experience lost for millennia due to later architectural additions. We can watch the moon rise through a specific notch in a stone arch at Stonehenge, seeing the same spectacle that Neolithic priests saw, all from within a computer simulation. These tools are not just proving ancient precision, they are granting us a form of time travel, letting us experience the overwhelming awe of a celestial event precisely engineered by human hands. This fusion of cutting-edge code and ancient stone is fundamentally rewriting history, revealing a past where the line between temple and observatory, between prayer and science, simply did not exist. How many other cosmic secrets are still hidden, waiting for the right digital key to unlock them from the stone? This ancient wisdom is not lost to history, it has simply been reborn in modern form. The same principles that guided a temple's alignment to the solstice sun now inform a new generation of architects seeking to harmonize our buildings with the environment. Thinker and architect Christopher Alexander championed patterns in design that foster life and connection, drawing inspiration from timeless structures that responded to light and orientation. His work echoes the ancient understanding that a building is not just a shelter, but a living system that interacts with the cosmos, using natural light not merely for illumination, but to shape our daily experience and well-being. This is not nostalgic imitation, it is the rediscovery of a fundamental truth about how we inhabit space. Science now validates this intuition through the field of heliotherapy, which studies how specific angles and intensities of sunlight influence our circadian rhythms, vitamin D production, and even mood. An ancient Egyptian priest who designed a chamber to be flooded with the low light of the winter solstice was in effect practicing a form of heliotherapy, using architecture to deliver a dose of therapeutic light at the time of year it was most needed. We are now relearning how to design hospitals, schools, and homes that harness these same celestial patterns for human health, catching up to a knowledge that was once carved in stone. The most direct descendants of those ancient temples are our modern astronomical observatories. While they are equipped with mirrors and sensors instead of shadow-casting pillars, their fundamental purpose remains unchanged: to capture and interpret the light of the cosmos. Their massive, domed structures are meticulously engineered to rotate and align with pinpoint accuracy, tracking planets and galaxies with the same intent, if not the same means, as the Maya tracking Venus. This continuous thread from the Caracol Tower to the Keck Observatory reveals a timeless human drive to build bridges to the stars. The legacy of this cosmic architecture is a profound lesson in sustainable and meaningful design. It shows us that our ancestors were not primitive mystics, but brilliant environmental designers who understood that true sophistication lies in aligning our lives with the natural world's grand cycles. Their temples stand as a challenge to our own often disconnected architecture, inviting us to once again design spaces that do not just keep the elements out, but that let the cosmos in, creating buildings that remind us with every beam of light of our place within a vast and rhythmic universe. These ancient stones hold a timeless conversation between earth and sky. Our journey reveals that the builders of Newgrange and the Maya astronomers were not primitive stargazers, but sophisticated scientist architects. They engineered their temples with a precision that has endured for millennia, encoding celestial knowledge directly into stone alignments that still function today. This was a global phenomenon, a shared human response to the cosmos. Civilizations separated by oceans and centuries independently arrived at the same brilliant solution, building structures that captured the solstice sun or tracked the wandering path of Venus. They prove that the drive to understand our place in the universe is a fundamental part of the human spirit, expressed through architecture that bridges the earthly and the celestial. This rediscovery quietly challenges our modern assumptions about history. It asks us to reconsider what we label as advanced technology, suggesting that a deep, empirical understanding of cosmic cycles, built to last for ages, represents a form of genius we are only now relearning to appreciate. Each aligned doorway and calibrated shadow was a testament to a world view where human life was intimately woven into the fabric of the cosmos. In our current age, where artificial light obscures the stars and our days are governed by digital clocks, we can feel a profound disconnection from the natural rhythms that once guided our ancestors. These ancient temples stand as a quiet invitation. They remind us of the enduring human impulse to align our lives with larger patterns, to find our footing by looking up. The silent stones have kept their celestial secrets across centuries, waiting for us to remember the cosmic connection written in their enduring alignments. What might our own world look like if we once again designed our spaces to harmonize with, rather than shut out, the grand turning of the sky?